The Rams dodged a major bullet today by not making a crucial move to potentially improve the roster, as we have a deep dive into that today, as well as some other alternative options that they can go for the defensive side of the ball. And welcome back to another episode of Rams Digest. I'm your host, Joshua Finehirsh. And before we get into today's video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on that bell so you do not miss any daily new Rams Digest videos covering all things Rams. As we are on the road to 4,000 subscribers by training camp, we are just over 300 away. So make sure to hit that button so we can hit our goal of 4K by training camp. And now to today's story of the day. As you all probably know, the Jalen Ramsey trade happened today, and it's not to a team that anyone really ended up expecting in the long run, as we're going to get into the deep dive and the negotiations of that as well. And our first story is brought to us by Rams Wire. There will be no reunion in Los Angeles for the Rams and Jalen Ramsey. On Monday, the Miami Dolphins agreed to trade the star cornerback to the Pittsburgh Steelers, finally finding a team willing to take on his contract. With this deal, Ramsey actually gets a $1.5 million raise this season, bringing his salary to $26.6 million. The terms of the trade have not yet been revealed, so it's unclear what the Steelers gave up to acquire Ramsey from the Dolphins. But yes, that is the big thing about this trade. The Pittsburgh Steelers not only take on his entire contract, which was already supposed to be $24 million, around that $25 million range, and now with this raise, as you see, $26.6 million on that 3-year, $72.3 million contract that he has. Yeah, I mean, for the Steelers, you get someone who's going to help your cornerback room, who's going to fit in next to Darius Slay there, which is going to be an interesting fit to older guys. And the Steelers have really had a different approach this offseason than in the past. They signed back Mason Rudolph, they drafted someone who I'm really high on, as you know, in Will Howard, and now they have the shot of getting Ramsey, which they did, and now they definitely have a roster that they believe can contend. Can they actually contend? Let's face it, probably not. Sorry, Steelers fans, but this roster, you get Aaron Rodgers, you trade for DK Metcalf, which I do think was a worthwhile trade, regardless of who your quarterback's going to be. You sign Aaron Rodgers, and now you have Jalen Ramsey. And then you also sign Darius Slay. So definitely a bit of an interesting offseason approach here from the Steelers. The Rams were viewed as a logical landing spot for Ramsey all offseason, but Sean McVay acknowledged the many hurdles standing in the way of them potentially bringing him back to Los Angeles. Yes, that is an old quote, so we're not really going to get into that too much today. But yes, he has said for a long time he likes Ramsey and is a fan of him, but does not want to give up too much, which I agree. You don't want to give up too much. Later on in this video, you are going to see the really in-depth negotiations that both the Rams and Steelers went through, and you'll see why the Rams did not end up trading for Ramsey. His contract was the biggest sticking point, and it seems the Rams weren't willing to take on that amount of money for a 30-year-old cornerback, even one as talented as Ramsey. Yeah. Again, I'm very shocked the team actually took on his entire money. I mean, great job by Chris Grier, the GM of the Dolphins over there, because as you'll see as we get into the details of this trade, the Dolphins, I think, did win this trade, as we are going to get into that a little bit more here. As well, I agree with the Rams' decision right now, and comment down below. What do you think of the Rams' decision of not trading for Jalen Ramsey? Again, I agree with it based on the price tag that was needed, as we'll get into here shortly. So comment that down below. The Rams passed on Jair Alexander as well, which made a lot more sense to sign, and now Ramsey. So it seems unlikely they will make a meaningful addition at cornerback this offseason. They have confidence in their own corners, led by Darius Williams, Ahkello Witherspoon, and Kobe Durant. And now the Steelers have also traded Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Dolphins in exchange for Ramsey. No draft picks were involved as well. They also traded Jonnu Smith, as that has been reported for a few weeks now that Jonnu Smith was expected to be traded to the Steelers. But the Dolphins get Minkah Fitzpatrick, who, funny enough, may not remember, wanted to get out of there a few years back, and that's why he's on the Pittsburgh Steelers now, back to the team that originally drafted him out of Alabama in the late 2010s. And for the Dolphins, you get yourselves one of the best safeties in the league in Minkah Fitzpatrick, while having to take on that, while not having to pay any of Ramsey's current contract. This is a steal if you were the Dolphins. I mean, again, Chris Grier with an absolute fleece job right here of the Pittsburgh Steelers, unless Snead was like, yeah, no way, we're not trading you a high-impact player for Jalen Ramsey, which I definitely agree with. Minkah Fitzpatrick's a really, really good football player and a great safety. who the Dolphins get, you can even convert him to corner. I feel like he'd be just fine there as well. So yeah, again, just the Steelers. I get you're going all in with Aaron Rodgers. You said it's your last year, but his last year rather. But man, that is definitely an interesting fit. And comment down below, would you have given up any impact players for Jaylen Ramsey if you were Les Snead and the Rams GM? And now, as I said, we do have some more in-depth reporting about this trade, as this story is yet again brought to us by Rams Wire. And the Los Angeles Rams missed out on a potential reunion with Jaylen Ramsey as after the Miami Dolphins agreed to trade him to Pittsburgh. But they were in the mix. According to Ian Rappaport of NFL Network, the Rams and Steelers were the two main teams primarily involved in trade talks with the All-Pro cornerback. And this is something to note, meaning that this price tag, the Dolphins were kind of able to push it up a bit. Because Ramsey was not a hot commodity throughout the league, the Dolphins could say, hey, we only have two people here, or two teams rather, that are really interested. We want to try to get the most we can for Ramsey. And best of all, we're going to try not to take on any more of his contract, and that is exactly what they were able to do. The Steelers got across the finish line, though, by trading away three-time All-Pro safety Minkah Fitzpatrick. That's likely better than any package the Rams would have been able to offer to Miami. It would have been better. And again, Ramsey gets a raise at $1.5 million, as we said. And money was also a hurdle for the Rams, so they may not have been willing to give Ramsey more money than he was already set to make. Which, again, I don't know how, if you're the Steelers, you agree to give him more money. Again, they're trying to go all in. I understand that, but for the Rams, this looks better and better for the Rams as we keep going more and more in depth about this trade, because why? If you're the Steelers, and if anyone in the comments is a Steelers fan watching this video for our perspective, I do want to know, do you think this is going to help you win a Super Bowl? Because my honest opinion is no. Because you have the Chiefs, Bills, and Ravens as your top three. The Broncos look young and really good. The Chargers are good. I'm never going to give up on the Bengals. You know I'm a big Joe Burrow guy. I haven't mentioned the Texans yet. I mean, even the Raiders aren't going to be awful. Like, there's so many other teams in the AFC that I think could be better. Even the Patriots right now have a shot to be better. And so it's definitely a weird fit for not necessarily scheme-wise, but just player-wise. Ramsey last year, again, he's 6'1", 208, good size. He's going to be 31 at the end of the year, though. He only had 2 interceptions, but 11 passes defense, 60 tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 4 quarterback hits. He's not a bad player, for sure. Like, he's still good. I think he still has something left in the tank, but he's not $26.6 million worth of a player. And Ramsey did reportedly prefer a landing spot on the West Coast, but instead he'll stay on Eastern time zone as a member of the Steelers, his 4th team in the league. Yeah, again, we talked about this a few weeks ago. I believe my co-host Josh made the video about that, so go watch that if you haven't already after this one. But he did do the video about this reporting where Ramsey reportedly wanted to really only be on the Rams or the Chargers, and now he's on the Steelers. So the Dolphins, interestingly, do not heed his requests in order to be on the West Coast. So again, comment down below what you think the more we go into this trade. And now we have the final story of today's video from Ramblin' Fan, going over just how exactly these negotiations went. And a surprise player for the Rams who could have been in the way, or a surprise person for the Rams rather, who was in the way of these potential trade talks falling through, as we have that from Ramblin' Fan. The Rams have had a little chance of outbidding the all-in Steelers, and what seems to have been a bidding war, the LA Rams were simply outgunned. The Pittsburgh Steelers, knowing full well that the 2025 NFL season is the last year for Aaron Rodgers, are making the type of deals for the roster that exemplifies a team going all in. Yes, this is reminiscent of what the Rams were doing a few years back in 2021, trying to go all in to get that Super Bowl, which they did, but after trading for Stafford, the Rams were already in a good spot. They were already a playoff team who you saw had the potential to win, because they were in the Super Bowl just a few years earlier already. The Steelers haven't won a playoff game in, 9 seasons now under Mike Tomlin? It's not like the Steelers are that close to winning, especially because you have to beat the Chiefs, Bills, and Ravens. You're most likely going to have to beat 2 out of the 3. And again, I'm a Broncos guy this year, man. I'm really high on the Broncos, and I don't even know if the Steelers could beat the Broncos heading in to this year as well. So definitely an interesting fit there again for Ramsey. When facing a team in any NFL auction that is going all in, the stakes escalate quickly. And so it was in this case, as the Steelers were happy to trade all-pro safety Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Miami Dolphins for DB Jalen Ramsey. And suddenly, as I said earlier, this deal no longer appears to favor the Steelers, which I fully agree. I think the Dolphins absolutely won this trade. Again, losing Jonnu Smith hurts because he was a really good tight end for you last year, fantasy-wise as well. So that's definitely going to hurt his production playing alongside Freiermuth, but now they can run more 12 personnel. So definitely an interesting fit here. And for the Rams, you're not losing sleep about this at all because you don't really have a star DB to trade the Dolphins. The Dolphins most likely would have wanted one of your younger defensive linemen. And if you're the Rams, you're not going to do that for Jalen Ramsey. For Jair Alexander, maybe. For a guy like Sauce Gardner, yeah, you 100% do that, or Surtain, but Jalen Ramsey is no longer at the level of those guys. And so for the Rams, this makes perfect sense not giving up any key players and having to take on the full money, which was obviously going to be the Dolphins' goal from the start, trying to get someone to take the full money, which they were able to do. And there was no way the Rams will be willing to part, as I just said, with a significant veteran contributor in the hopes of adding Ramsey. So it was an uphill climb for the Rams to emerge with the winning bid in the first place. But now we have something that's going to shock you and shocked me while reading this. The potential person who ended up stopping this deal for the Rams. Rams head coach Sean McVay likely swayed the Rams' decision. Let's not ignore the lessons of the past. When the Rams were losing in the bidding war with the Carolina Panthers for veteran quarterback Matthew Stafford. Can we just pause that for a second? Stafford was almost a Panther. I completely forgot about that. Thankfully for Matthew Stafford, that was not the case. Head coach Sean McVay contacted the team owner Stan Kroenke for authorization to sweeten the deal with an additional first-round draft pick. Kroenke agreed, and the Rams successfully traded for a new quarterback. And that is something to note, because Sean McVay, as we know, was in Cabo with Stafford and all this before the trade, and he was really hard on Stafford. He was the main guy who wanted Stafford. Obviously, we all knew at the time Stafford was better than Goff, but McVay was that guy saying, hey, this is who I want, we're going to get him. But he didn't really feel like he was doing that at all with Jaylen Ramsey. And that is not to say the Rams were not interested in adding Ramsey. I'm simply stating the obvious. The Rams' interest in trading for Ramsey had its limits. If the Rams truly viewed Ramsey as the missing link for another Super Bowl victory, that same McVay drive would have compelled the team to win the bidding war. Yeah, there's definitely a possibility of that, but I don't think it was only Sean McVay. Sean McVay, we are going to show you a quote from OTAs that was a bit telling for this Rams team. No, I feel good about where we're at. Obviously, Jalen's a unique deal, and this was McVay talking about just how exactly he feels about the team possibly adding Jaylen Ramsey back at OTAs. And as we can see, this wasn't really just talk, that he felt good about where they're at, and he's probably right that it looks like they're not going to be making any more major moves for this team, as we have some analysis for this quote as well. And I don't think this was just coach speak at all, nor was this a matter of hedging a bet. The Rams viewed Jaylen Ramsey as a luxury, a rare talent that suddenly became available. But luxury also implies that it is not a necessity. We'll have plenty of glass half full and silver lining articles up soon, but for now the addition of Ramsey has become something that the team will regret this season. I happen to disagree with that pretty heavily, mainly because, again, if we're taking on that entire contract, that's not something as a Rams fan I want to be stuck paying. And I'm sure the Rams front office, with Les Snead, Kroenke, and everyone up there, does not want to be paying that contract either. So, again, if we were able to take on half of the contract, I think you 100% do that, or even 3/4 of the contract. I just don't see a world where you can justify taking on Jaylen Ramsey's entire contract, regardless of team here. And I want to leave your comments down below. Leave your opinions. I'll be looking. I'll be responding. What you think about this trade, and who won the trade, the Steelers or the Dolphins as well? Let me know that in the comments. You could conclude that the Rams were caught napping again as another elite DB slips through their fingers, or you could attribute this tried and failed trade negotiation as simply a matter whose outcome was never going to turn out any other way. The Pittsburgh Steelers get DB Jalen Ramsey, as well as tight end Jonnu Smith. The Miami Dolphins get defensive back Minkah Fitzpatrick, and the Rams get another reminder that bidding wars for NFL players seldom end well for the team. Yeah, they definitely do, because for the Steelers, you get your guy, so in your eyes it ends well, but we'll see how long Ramsey puts up elite or even just good production at this point in his career. Now we got to look at some alternatives. The main guy and the only guy that I think of is Stephon Gilmore. Again, he's a cheaper deal, 1 year, maybe $4 million. Someone who can be a nice veteran presence. He doesn't need to be that elite for this Rams team, but he's someone who's played in playoff games. He played against the Rams in the Super Bowl, had the key pass deflection on the Goff pass to Brandon Cooks, that if that's touchdown ties the game in that game. And so Gilmore is that guy who's been in these clutch scenarios, knows how to play, and he'd be a nice mentor for our younger defensive backs as well. And comment down below any other names you think could be on the trade market for a more affordable price or in free agency for the Rams to go after at the cornerback position. And that is all for this episode of Rams Digest. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure to leave a like on this video for the Jalen Ramsey saga being over. Now we are done talking about it. On to the future for this Rams team. And comment down below your thoughts on the trade overall and whether you agree with the decision for the Rams to not go all in for taking on Jalen Ramsey and who you think won the trade, the Steelers or the Dolphins, as well as some other options. I want to know. I think Stephon Gilmore is the best option. But leave that down below in the comments. Like this video for the Jalen Ramsey saga being over. I've been your host, Joshua Finehirsh. Thank you for watching this episode of Rams Digest. I'll see you soon for another one, and have a great rest of your day.